Good evening, everyone. Let me start with a question, a few questions actually. Has anyone ever told you that you resemble your dad? If so, then please raise your hand. Have anyone ever told you that you resemble your mom? Has anyone ever told you that you resemble Jesus? No? Houston, we have a problem. Serious problem. Never wondered why? Why no one ever told you that you actually resemble Jesus? I mean, the Bible says that we are all created in the image and likeness of God. It should be so clear for anyone who sees us. Jesus. Saint Faustina says that we resemble God the most when we are merciful. So it's not about the features of the face, though you can look at the image and say like, okay, that shape, okay, 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth. I actually resemble him. We resemble God the most when we are merciful. 1 year before her death, Sister Faustina wrote a beautiful prayer. She was just 32 years old. And for me, that prayer reflects really the effort of her whole life. She asks God in that prayer to help her to be merciful to others. It's a long prayer. And she names in details what does it mean to be merciful. She really understands at that stage of her life what does it mean and how important it is. And basically, yes, Lord, I want to resemble you. I want other people to see you in me. So what can I do? Plastic surgery? No. Learn how to be merciful. And that's why, because she understood very well what mercy really is in the practice of her life, she described it in her prayer. And we love the simplicity and the richness of her words in that prayer. That's why we decided to have a whole series of talks on the base of that prayer only. So we separated the prayer on verses, like separated into invocations, each invocation separately. And every talk will be focused on different invocation from that prayer. Only this one, today's talk, is an exception because I will give you rather like an overview of that prayer, focusing on the essence of each invocation and, what's very special, illustrating it with examples from Saint Faustina's daily life. For some of you, it may be actually the first time that you will meet Faustina. Maybe you read her diary, but in the diary she focuses so much on Jesus, and that's great, that sometimes you may not notice Faustina. You may not know her actually. What was she like? So today I will show you Faustina. And also I will share with you unique stories that we know from memoirs of the sisters who knew her, who lived with her. And that's so special because you cannot find it in the diary, and actually you cannot find it in any book translated into English language. So only now, only in this talk. Saint Faustina starts her prayer from asking for merciful eyes. She says, "Help me, O Lord, that my eyes may be merciful, so that I may never suspect or judge from appearances, but look for what is beautiful in my neighbor's souls and come to their rescue." Merciful eyes, eyes filled with mercy. Those eyes can see beauty and goodness in other people. looking more deeply than just at what is external, and seeing more than mere appearances. John Paul II, in his beautiful encyclical Divas in Misericordia, wrote, "Mercy draws good from all the forms of evil existing in the world and in men." Mercy draws good from all the forms of evil in the world and in us. You remember that scene in Shrek when Shrek explains to the donkey that all ogres are like onions, they have layers. We also have layers. And usually the external layer is the most ugly one. It's the ugliest one. It's the one that's most destroyed, like dirty and stuff. And we need to go deeper to see the true heart of a person, who the person really is. And Merciful Eyes can do it. Merciful Eyes take the effort to go deeper. One of the sisters, Sister Ludwina, remembered Sister Faustina in the following way. Normal situation, they are traveling somewhere, and they are talking. And she says, "I knew nothing about her revelations." So it's not about extraordinary things. This sister knows nothing about Sister Faustina's supernatural life, that she sees Jesus. No, it's not about revelations. She says, "But I listened to her eagerly, since she was more spiritual than we were. She had such a good influence that after talking to her, one felt so uplifted, since she was able to see and appreciate even the smallest sign of goodness." She was able to see and appreciate even the smallest sign of goodness. One of the women in our care said that Sister Faustina was an angel of peace. She never spoke negatively about anyone. On the contrary, she always spoke well of people and kept on looking for the good, for the best in everyone. The third memory about our saint comes from Sister Serafina, who recalled the time when Saint Faustina worked alone in the kitchen, cooking on a daily basis for more than 20 people, even could be more than 30 or 40. We cannot say now exactly, but really hard work. And the only assistance she had in this toilsome task came from a girl, as Sister Serafina described, of a rather unpleasant character. This is religious sister speaking, so she uses nice words, but just imagine what can that mean. Especially if she adds, no one wanted to work with her. What an unpleasant creature she must have been. While working with Sister Faustina, this girl changed beyond recognition. Such was Sister Faustina's silent yet heavenly influence upon sinful souls. Something in her merciful gaze that uplifted people. Criticism or constant nagging does not change us. But when someone sees hidden beauty inside us, maybe something that even we don't see in ourselves, that can change us. If we receive a look of merciful love, we truly want to become just the way those merciful eyes see us. We want to become the way they see us. These eyes are not blind or naive, but nor they focus on what is wrong or weak. The merciful, good, trusting look lifts us up and changes us, while an unmerciful, suspicious, critical look, and judgmental attitude. They only affirm evil. Merciful ears. Saint Faustina prays to the Lord, help me that my ears may be merciful, so that I may give heed to my neighbor's needs and not be indifferent to their pains and moanings. Indifference, that's such a disease in our times. Sister Faustina wrote in her diary, in March 1937, during her stay at the hospital, the doctor did not allow me to go to the chapel, although I had a great desire for it. However, I prayed in my own room. Suddenly, I heard the bell in the next room. You know, there's a special buzzer at every hospital bed, you know, that the sick person can call for help. So suddenly Faustina hears that bell, and what does she do? And I went in and rendered a service to a seriously sick person. When I returned to my room, I suddenly saw the Lord Jesus, who said to me, "My daughter, you gave me greater pleasure by rendering me that service than if you would have prayed for a long time." I answered, "But it was not to you, Jesus, but to that patient that I rendered that service." And the Lord answered me, "Yes, my daughter, but whatever you do for your neighbor," and you can conclude that sentence, "you do it for me." It's pure Bible here in the diary. It was not a bell calling Sister Faustina, was it? Nobody would have held a grudge against her if she did not react at all. I mean, she was sick and bedridden herself. She was not a nurse in that hospital. She was a patient. Yet, the tender-heartedness of a merciful person goes contrary the self-centered and minimalistic ideas of the contemporary world. Sometimes we hear people say the world is brutal. You can only count on yourself. Aim for what you want at any cost. Achieve your goals at any cost. And then you can see people, you know, like steamrollers. You know, those machines that just crush everything that comes on the way. Achieve what you want, achieve your goals at any cost. Well, this is not an advice of a good friend. A merciful man doesn't remain indifferent in an uncaring world. He doesn't have to be asked twice. Sometimes he doesn't have to be asked at all. Such a person is very sensitive and will hear somebody's soft cry for help much quicker than the yelling of his own needs. Merciful tongue. Faustina prays, "Help me, O Lord, that my tongue may be merciful, so that I should never speak negatively of my neighbor, but have a word of comfort and forgiveness for all." Let us hear now another passage from her diary. She says, "Today I was visited by a certain layperson." I guess it happens in the hospital. "A person who has caused me a lot of sorrow. and who has abused my goodness, telling many lies. At the first moment I saw her, the blood froze in my veins. I like this expression so much because it shows that Faustina was a real human being, that she had emotions, that she could have get angry, and she's a saint. So, the blood froze in my veins because there stood before my eyes all that I had to suffer because of her. And the thought came to me to tell her the truth firmly and immediately. But at the same moment, the mercy of God came before my eyes. And I resolved to act toward her as Jesus would have acted in my place. So I started to talk to her gently. And when she expressed the wish to talk to me alone, I then, in a very delicate manner, made known to her clearly the sad condition of her soul. I saw that she was deeply moved, though she was trying to hide this from me. And then I heard the words of Jesus. I am glad you behaved like my true daughter. Be always merciful, as I am merciful. Love everyone out of love for me, even your greatest enemies, so that my mercy may be fully reflected in your heart. When we talk about enemies and people difficult for us, it's so clear that it's never like my mercy. It's His mercy that I allow Him to show through my heart. Anyways, it's always Him whose love and mercy, and I only allow Him to love through me. The first and natural reaction towards a person that has harmed us is, now just think about your reactions. What do you do when someone hurt you? Usually, probably, it will be an instant desire to hit back. Guys, right? Or to escape, to hide. Ladies? Or am I confusing something? I don't know. I usually hide. Sister Faustina, a woman very sensitive to the truth, wanted the person who came to her to realize the evil that she had committed. Totally understandable. But as the wise men say, one can say everything if said in the right way. It is the way it is said that counts. So luckily, our sister didn't follow her first impulse. The blood froze in my veins, and I wanted to tell her the truth firmly and immediately. Or just imagine the truth presented in such a way would be rejected. And thanks be to God, then came the light. What would Jesus do in my place? That's generally the best tool of discernment. Each time you don't know how to behave, you don't know what to do, just ask yourself this question: what would Jesus do in my place? And you have a beautiful discernment immediately. So, Faustina, knowing Jesus, we are always invited to get to know Him better and better. So knowing Him, and probably recalling these words from Gospel of St. Matthew, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault in private. So probably it was somehow in her. And she knew that Jesus would definitely, He would not escape from the truth, but the way He would present the truth, that would be such a loving way That, I mean, if he would tell me, like now, all my sins, I know I couldn't be angry with him. I would be grateful. Can I present truth like that? In such a loving way? Merciful hands. Help me, O Lord, that my hands may be merciful and filled with good deeds, so that I may do only good to my neighbors and take upon myself the more difficult and toilsome tasks. Let us learn another story from memoirs, the story told by Sister Justina, one of my favorite stories. A very day-to-day story. We can take it from Faustina's life and just make a copy-paste to our life. This is what happens at our homes very often. So, there is a convent in Vilnius where Sister Faustina works in the garden. It's a very hard work for her. She's not prepared for that work and she's already very sick, but she does it without complaining. And there's Sister Justina working in the kitchen, also very hard work. And she says, I was alone and I had a lot of work. Often, when it was already time to go to bed, I still had a lot of work to do, at times washing the dishes all alone. Seeing this, Sister Faustina always made haste to help me. She didn't had to stop at the kitchen on her way from the garden. She just wanted to check on Sister Justina. How is she? Is she done with her work? Maybe she needs help, just to check. And usually, yeah, she needed help. Look, how often, if we know that maybe someone will need our help, we find all the other ways not to meet that person, just in case. Because I have so many things to do, like my things. I cannot bear her things. That's too much. Sister Justina says, seeing that I still have a lot of work to do, Sister Faustina always made haste to help me. Although she was tired herself, and her health was poor and deteriorating, she had a great love and compassion for everyone. And so you can see in this example that merciful hands prove necessary in the course of everyday life. Mercy, simply, is a lifestyle. It's not just one good deed from time to time. It's not one action. Now, let's do something good. Monday, 7 p.m. No, Tuesday, 7 p.m. I will do something good. Mercy is a lifestyle. Consistent, everyday choices. In their recollection of Sister Faustina, other sisters emphasized this regularity, consequence. They said, she always warmed up my meals. She could always find time for me. She always helped me. This is how they remembered her. And when I read those memoirs, I was truly wondering, is it possible that she was always that good and gentle? That's the most frequent word in the memoirs, always. Well, even if it happened occasionally that Sister Faustina did not warm up a meal for a sister who arrived late, or did not help a tired sister, since she was, after all, as you know, only a human. The lesson here is that her lifestyle was imbued with mercy, so very much that her sisters couldn't remember a time when she wasn't merciful. Her efforts to be merciful became the norm, not the exception. Mercy is a lifestyle. Merciful feet. It's good to have a look at the image even. We sometimes don't notice that Jesus on this image is walking. He's in haste. Faustina says, "Help me, O Lord, that my feet may be merciful, so that I may hurry to assist my neighbor, overcoming my own fatigue and weariness. My true rest is in the service of my neighbor." Is it? It seems impossible, but she says so. And as I told you at the beginning, this prayer is like summed up her whole life experience. This is not a theory, something beautiful that she imagined could be. No, this is what she experienced. She says, "My true rest is in the service of my neighbor." Deal with it. In 1936, Sister Faustina wrote, now again, back to the diary. "Today, I was feeling more ill than usual, so I went to bed directly after benediction. But when I entered the bedroom, I suddenly knew interiorly that I should go to the cell of Sister N, because she was in need of help. I entered her cell at once, in haste, being in haste, like Mary to Elizabeth, like Jesus on the image, like Saint Faustina. She has the inspiration, she goes. I entered her cell at once, and Sister N said to me, 'Oh, how good it is that God has brought you here, sister.' And her voice was so faint that I could hardly hear her. She said to me, 'Sister, please bring me some tea because I'm terribly thirsty and I cannot move because I'm in such a pain.' And truly, she was suffering very much and had a high fever. I made her more comfortable, and she was able to quench her thirst with a little bit of tea that I brought her. Later, when I entered my own cell, my soul was engulfed by the great love of God, and I understood that we should take great heed of our interior inspirations and follow them faithfully, and that faithfulness to one grace draws down other graces. Look, the sick sister said, 'God has brought you here.' So she kind of saw God in this action. She saw God in Faustina, with Faustina. And Faustina, with those merciful eyes, she saw God in others. Reciprocity, endowment. This is one of the characteristic features of mercy. By giving, I'm receiving. And John Paul says it clearly in his beautiful encyclical Divas in Misericordia, that if there is no reciprocity in our good deeds, these are not yet acts of mercy. Reciprocity, by giving, I'm receiving. Good done to others with a pure intention allows us to taste heaven. That true rest that Faustina mentions comes when you do good to others. And so she concludes the story of helping another sister with these words, "My soul was engulfed by the great love of God." This is how she felt after overcoming her own tiredness and helping someone else. Merciful heart. Saint Faustina says, "Help me, O Lord, that my heart may be merciful, so that I myself may feel all the sufferings of my neighbor I will refuse my heart to no one. I will be sincere even with those who I know will abuse my kindness. Sometimes I have such difficulties with praying with these words. But this is what she achieved in her life. And again, let me remind you, she was a human being, so it's possible for us too. Let me share with you a story which always amazes me when I think about it. Sister Samuela recalled a very powerful example from the life of Sister Faustina. Let me first ask you, have you ever seen an old wooden floor? This guy did. There are some people who did. Why am I asking? Because the old wooden floor is not the type of wooden floor that we have now, smooth, modern, perfect wooden floors. In the old type wooden floors, they were uneven, and there were spaces both between and within the boards. So just imagine to clean such floor. And this is the story about cleaning. So it's important to have that image in your head. It was once when Sister Faustina's responsibility was to clean that floor. And she spent many hours on her knees scrubbing the floor with a brush, handmade by Saint Faustina. And that was a rainy day, just like today. And bear in mind that the convent was surrounded by dirt roads, not, beautiful pavements, dirt roads. On a rainy day, one of the sisters came from town wearing muddy rain boots. Are you still using your imagination? Can you see them? Covered with mud. And she was angry with Sister Faustina over something, and in a temper entered the convent and walked right over the newly scrubbed wood floor. I see your imagination is working. So she didn't stop to remove her shoes till she had reached the other end of the floor. Sister Faustina, being there, seeing this, she said nothing. She just bent down and picked up the dirty shoes and gave one to Sister Samuela, who was then with her, to clean, while she cleaned the other shoe by herself. And so Sister Samuela, being at that time only a novice, a young sister, she asked, why are you doing such a thing for such an annoying sister? And she answered, for the love of Jesus. Love is patient, and love is kind. It is not arrogant or rude. It is not irritable or resentful. Love bears all things, and love endures all things. By nature, we are not merciful, and it is so difficult to act against our broken, wounded nature. And that's why Jesus says, if anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself, deny what's natural in you. Natural means broken. Natural means not necessarily good, and for sure not the best. No one is good except God alone. But His mercy in this world is revealed through us, broken people. Therefore, in order to be merciful, we first need to meet the merciful God. I mean, like really meet Him and become enraptured with Him. fall in love with him and desire to be like him. Saint Faustina starts her prayer by confessing to Jesus, Lord, I want to be your living reflection. Your living reflection. And you? What do you want?